What gets you up in the morning?
Usually my cat.
Okay.
Yeah. She, the other day, she brought a dead bird into my bed first thing in the morning. So
Wow.
that woke me up
So
pretty
you have
well.
like a cat door, some indoor-outdoor freedom. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a very wild kitty, so she would not do well if she was just an indoor cat. She goes up on the roof and then looks down, and it's like she's on the bow of the Titanic.
Wow. That's cool. Adventurous pet.
Very.
A character, personality.
Very. She's a tortie.
That's a breed.
Yeah. It's like one of the it refers to her color of her coat. And but apparently it's really interesting because about 99% of all torties and all calico cats are all females.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What gets you angry?
Injustice. People, I think sometimes people's lack of consciousness, lack of consideration for others. In my personal life, I get angry when people misunderstand me, which, I've never heard of a misunderstood artist before, right?
Mm-hmm.
That never happens. And, and when people try to control me and try to kind of stop me from what I feel called to do.
What's the most fun you've had in post-vaccine New Mexico?
Post-vaccine New Mexico. I mean, it's just been fun to go out again, dance again, feel, just a bit more normal, although I don't think we're ever going to really be going back to any kind of normalcy. I think that, and I don't think that we should, because I've never been a fan of a lot of the constructs that we live, under, and I see that kind of breaking down as a good thing, and I'm hoping that it will turn into something that's really positive.
You're listening to Artists with Brian. I'm Brian, here with
Claire Boyce.
Claire is an oil painter, a poet, a writer. Welcome, Claire.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Cool. So some exciting news for you, maybe, if you haven't checked your email, but I bought your Etsy greeting card set this morning.
Ooh, that's really exciting. Thank you so much.
Can you tell me how many cards are in that? Is it 5 or are there more?
It's 5 cards,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I could see someone buying the set as a gift in itself, but I'm going to part it out into 5 nice holiday cards.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I've been living here for 7 years, and my family visits every now and then, but I think the representations of New Mexico from your oil paintings that appear there will be like a really nice thing for them to hang on their fridge for a couple weeks.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah. How is Etsy going for you overall?
Well, so I've had a Etsy account since 2014, but I really haven't been like keyed into, what's necessary to really do Etsy. And I really revamped it recently, and I feel like I'm just in the place where I want to make my art a lot more available and really focus on that as a business right now. Mm-hmm. So it's going well. I actually haven't officially launched it. I haven't, meaning I haven't advertised it on any of my social media. I'm kind of waiting a little bit on that, and probably I will have done that by the time this podcast comes out. But of course it's open for business, but I really like it. I really like being able to share the beauty and the love that I have for New Mexico that I think comes through in my art. and make that available to people and make something really beautiful and really special.
Yeah, and you're from Colorado. Recently moved here, relatively? How long?
I've been here for 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, I first moved to a farm in Algodones, which is outside of Bernalillo.
Out there.
Completely off grid. So I think everybody should live on a farm at one point or another.
Are you the next Georgia O'Keeffe?
Yes and no. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Georgia O'Keeffe, as well as some, critiques, which, she was a product of her time. But let's give me the one big critique. That sounds interesting. Well, I do think that she had some entitlement, some of white entitlement of coming here and saying this land is mine. I can't lie, because I've also felt that. Like, I felt just a deep acceptance from the land here in New Mexico, and that of any place that I've been, that this land is alive and almost as if it was a friend, or it feels very nurturing to me. So with Georgia O'Keeffe, I think that she did have some entitlement, and she also was very, shall we say, ballsy, which I think served her in a lot of ways, being a woman artist in that time period. She still is the best paid female artist.
Really?
In history.
In history. Visual artist.
Yes.
Okay.
Visual artist.
Fascinating.
Painter. I believe,
Does that include sales after her death?
It does.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So, she was very good at marketing. She was very good at, at saying, I'm gonna be the best, and so I respect her a lot for a lot of those things. But some of her quotes and some of the things don't really translate too well. And I do know that I do have friends that really don't respect her because they feel she's appropriated certain things and certain styles, and then made a large profit from that, whereas other artists, indigenous artists, are doing similar work and they're not getting compensated and haven't been compensated in that same way. So I think we really have to, understand that kind of dynamic, and that it's there, but I don't know exactly how to fix it, or even, how it might be affecting my own art. Am I appropriating things? I hope not. And, what I do comes from a place of love and respect, and, gratitude for this place, for letting me be here.
I would say to the native artists listening, let's talk about it. Come on the show. DM me on Instagram, Artist with Brian, with spelled out all one word, Artist with Brian. Speaking of Georgia O'Keeffe's marketing ability, season 3 of Artist with Brian is brought to you by howtoplaypoker.video. 64 videos, totally free, 10 hours of high quality instruction. Support the podcast, learn something new. Visit howtoplaypoker.video now. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be an artist. I was very passionate about art, and my dad's a playwright, so and he's also very creative, and so I did get a lot of exposure to art from him. He turned me on to Picasso and Matisse, and he was more into those artists from that period. And I got to go, he took me to New York, took me to museums there. And so, I was lucky to be able to be exposed to that from a young age. And at the same time, in my family, I was also, kind of subtly discouraged from being an artist, and even from my dad, because, he struggled so much with getting his plays published, getting his plays seen. And I think, and my mom's a kind of eminently practical person. So I was both, I think, encouraged and also discouraged from following my innate, passion.
If it weren't art, what would it be? If art didn't exist, where would you find your vocation, do you think?
I mean, I think that I'm a jack of all trades. I went to school for anthropology and biology, and I did very well. I definitely love philosophy. I love science. I even thought I might go to medical school for a period of time after I graduated. So I do really need that creative expression, though. Without it, it turns into a destructive energy that really doesn't serve me or others. So, I mean, if there was no chance for creative expression, I would probably be like living in like a cardboard box and shooting up, to be honest with you. I mean, it really does get, like that, where it's such an important part. But I would be doing something creative.
I see. I'm fond of the phrase in dead or in jail. It's more from like the hip hop side of the world, but that's my favorite phrase for what would I be doing if it weren't for screenwriting or drama or theater or podcasting.
It would not be good.
Yeah, it would not be good. Exactly.
We need our creative energy can turn so easily and turn on a dime into destructive energy. I think, if it's not channeled into something positive.
Yeah, maybe art saves the world because it keeps all the artists busy from destroying outwardly. Maybe. So speaking of art as therapeutic self-expression, do you do commissions of oil painting?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What's the first time you got paid for an oil painting?
The first time, I mean, I don't know if it was exactly the first time, but a memorable experience that I got paid was back in Denver, I was in an art show, and it was for the Anti-Defamation League. And so it was a fundraiser for, I think it was Imagine a World Without Hate. And I think that's just a beautiful idea, and a beautiful idea for an art show. And so I sold a painting, and it was complemented by a poem that I had written. And it was a painting of a person that's very near and dear to me, and who's still a dear friend. And at the time, me and my friend had started our own art group for figure drawing and figure painting, because we were a little bit frustrated with some of the models that were being chosen by some other groups where it was predominantly men, and we wanted to paint different age groups, different body types. We wanted to paint men as well as women, and not just young girls that are great, but it's like, are you doing your job as a painter if you're not really understanding, like, how do I paint different physiques? How do I paint different nationalities, different ethnicities? So it was a painting that I had done in our group, and I had written also a poem that accompanied it that was just about the energy that this person brought. And it felt so good on so many levels, because it was this reflection of beauty that I saw. And it was also, from a group that me and a friend had started. And then it was also a fundraiser for something really positive. So, it's like, if there can be something that's positive and beautiful on so many different levels, it just really makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. So you had painted that and then repurposed it as a fundraising piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry.
I had started it in the figurative painting drawing group, and then I finished it
Yeah.
And then, I donated it to the show.
Okay. Very nice. So if someone is browsing your Instagram right now, one who sees clear, is it clear or clearly?
My Instagram is the number 1.
Yes.
WHOCS clear, CLEAR.
Yeah. So if someone is digging your aesthetic as I have and wants like a big piece for their living room here in Santa Fe, they DM you. They have a strong idea of what they want. How does that conversation go with you as the artist?
I really feel the conversation starts with listening and seeing if our visions are compatible. I think that's really important. Obviously, if they're looking at my Instagram and they are digging my style, I'm not going to like paint a Chuck Close painting for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes, that happens. I also am a graphic designer, so I'm used to working with clients and, understanding what their vision is and communicating that through graphic design. And of course, fine art is a vastly different ballgame, but I think some of those skills still come in, in listening, understanding what they want, and then moving forward with that. If your, vision is compatible, I definitely can. I don't want to be too limited, because I think that kind of is a disservice to both of us and disservice to the art. But if they have colors or a palette or, even a picture or a landscape in mind that they would like an image of, a painting of, I'm definitely, really willing to work with them and kind of see where I can take, their initial vision.
Very nice. And it sounds like both client and artist will grow on every iteration of that process. Let's do something fun. Do you want to have some fun?
Always.
I like how I waited for your response, as if we're going to change the format of the show. So we're going to play a game, a trivia game in your domain of expertise, loosely. It follows your love of the state. It's called 3 Famous New Mexico Artists. So the answer is not always a New Mexico artist, but the clues certainly revolve around 3 different famous New Mexico artists. And the prize today is a VHS copy of Selena with Jennifer Lopez. The tape, I would say, is in, just good. It's unfortunately just in good condition. But the box is in fair condition, so worse. But it's a great movie, so that's what we're playing for. You got to go 3 for 3. You ready?
I'm so ready.
First question. She didn't cliff jump, but she spent a lot of time painting the cliffs by this lake.
Abiquiu.
Very good. And that, of course, is Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
She's come up twice now. Question 2. Known as a founder of the canon of contemporary Chicano literature, he sadly passed away in June 2020 at the ripe old age of 82.
Rodolfo Anaya.
You got it.
I have to say, I love him. His book, Bless Me Ultima, is like my Bible. Like, it's amazing.
Wow.
And I honor him so much.
Should I read Bless Me Ultima then?
It is one of the best books, especially if you live in New Mexico and you want a better understanding of like the history here from also a very literary perspective. It is, I get shivers like thinking of that book. It is literally been my favorite book since I read it in middle school.
Is it in Spanish or English, or have they translated? Both. So he wrote it in Spanish?
He wrote it in Spanish. I think I'm not sure.
Maybe.
There's a lot of Spanish in the English, because Cuandera and even like, I think Ultima is Spanish, and he talks a lot about the traditions of in his family of like the farmers and the ranchers, and it is everybody should read Bless Me Ultima. Like, awesome. It is totally transcendent. I can't say enough about that man.
That's awesome. I'm trying to boost my Spanish to produce Spanish language independent films here. So that'd be fun. Maybe I'll read both the English and Spanish version side by side. That could really help me.
I think language is fascinating, and I think you would probably, it's like there's always translations, but each language is a different code, a different way of thinking. And so, you kind of can understand people more and get inside their heads a little bit more and understand where they're coming from. I think when you take the time to understand their language.
The language itself, yes. One of my all-time favorite quotes, certainly as a writer, is he who knows one language knows none. Like, you need to know how to say table in 2 different languages to start understanding what a table is.
Yep. Yeah.
Something like that. Now, I really want you to win, Selena. You've gone 2 for 2.
I'm really
you knew
excited.
So much about Rodolfo Naya. Final question. You must get it right to win, Selena. Cherokee American actor, Santa Fe living legend, known for his roles in Dancing with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, and Geronimo. My current Reach guest for this show.
I don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't know about this gentleman unless a guest mentioned him in season 1. Wes Studi.
I know his work. I just didn't know his name.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll keep Selena for somebody else. I knew I had to make the game harder. I'm sorry, Claire. I've been giving away a VHS every show.
Well, I got the art and literature questions.
Yeah,
so.
You had a great showing. And anybody out there who knows Wes, or if Wes is listening, come on the show, @mention him on Instagram, @mention artist with Brian. Let's try to get him on before season 3 ends. Claire, what good luck has brought you to this point in your life?
I feel like I've had a lot of good luck. I've had, a lot of good people in my life. I've had a lot of support. It's hard to really say exactly, to really specify one thing, but I feel incredibly fortunate to be living in this wonderful place that I, so really wanted to be in. I think it's quite a privilege to, to be able to chart your own course like that and to do something simply because you feel called to and feel compelled to. And that's definitely why I, came here. People ask me, why did you come to New Mexico? And I just say, because I wanted to. They're expecting, oh, well, I had a job or,
yes.
But it definitely wasn't like that. It was like, I really wanted to come here. And I had to make the practical things work out, to do so. But I've had a lot of support on the way and support from so many people. In art particularly, I got my start at the Art Students League in Denver, took a lot of classes there, was fortunate to be, painting with some really talented painters who are, internationally and nationally recognized. And that was pretty awesome for me, as, 27-year-old getting started. But there's been so many things that and so many people that have helped me and believed in me.
Beautiful. What's the last time you remember getting fooled or tricked, scammed, or pranked? I don't even think I can remember this, but I thought I'd give it a shot.
I wish I had a story that I was in the midst of some jackass style prank, but I don't know.
Craigslist scams?
Yeah. I think I might be in the middle of getting tricked.
For reals?
In a way. There's this truck that I was looking at on Facebook, and I'm looking to buy, and this person emailed me, and it just seemed, kind of like the scam style of writing, just give me your information and I'm in Reno and giving tons of personal information.
Yeah.
So, which is unfortunate because the truck is really, really cool. But I definitely not really gung-ho about it at this point, because it does seem a little sketchy.
Yeah, my favorite advice on how to spot a liar is they say too much. So like you ask them a question about the issue at hand, and they'll tell you about their day, about their relationship with their mother, and how that impacts the current issue. So that's funny. Yeah, I think you have a good sense on that one. Let's talk a little bit about your Instagram. I want the listeners to go right now at digit one who CS clear. It's like one who sees clear. The number 1, WHOCSCLEAR. You have 536 followers. If you go check this out right now, you're going to see Claire's oil paintings. They're impressionistic southwestern scenes. I'd say there's some graphite on paper portraits. It's a great account. I would say by every measure, you're a diamond in the rough, which matches the show's aesthetic. So I want to do something kind of fun here, is use you as a case study. As a specific case to be generalized for our listeners and future guests. This show's about getting to know the artists on a personal level so that we build a relationship with them and check out their art and hopefully buy it, rather than hearing endlessly about like which paint they choose and why and the process of making art. So what are some ideas? Let's like just talk it out. How do we make this show, your appearance on this show, work for you? I bought the greeting card set, but what else is possible?
Well, you can always go to my Instagram and Etsy, and if you're interested in purchasing anything, definitely reach out to me. I would say, as far as supporting my art, that is the best way to do so. I do have a website. It is theonewhoseesclearly.com, and it is in dire need of being updated.
Yeah.
And
is that all spelled out in English, theonewhoseesclearly.com?
It is.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
It is all spelled out in English.
Yeah.
I also have a Facebook page, which is The One Who Sees Clearly Arts. So those are all great ways of getting in touch with me and seeing my most recent work, and purchasing or talking about commissions. I think those are all good good ways.
What about doing like a contest with this show, where you either give away or we do a fundraiser for a piece, or just like the box set of greeting cards, since we talked about it so much?
Sure.
I'm just trying to brainstorm. The one charity I want to make official for this show is the Taos Humane Society. It's the only dog I've ever had is a couple strays up there when I lived in a cabin. But yeah, like we could really do anything. What I've been doing lately is definitely like resharing Instagram posts, swapping that. I mean, I could, one idea, not just for you, but anybody, I could like come by your studio and do some videos for Instagram story or something. Do like a post. I've done that once with Tyler Nunes, the actor. I went to one of his plays and did some documentation like way after his episode.
Sure.
So you could do that. I don't know. How would you measure if the goal of this show is to give you a platform, like a springboard to increase your sales? How would you measure success? How would you gauge it as the artist?
Right now I'm focused on my Instagram following as well as building my Etsy account. So that's definitely, something that I would gauge success is sales on Etsy, Instagram followers. And, I would love to have you come by my studio. It is also in my home.
Yeah.
And I would also love to do a contest or some kind of, giveaway for charity or, some kind of auction.
Uh-huh.
I would be open.
Down.
I would be
That's
open
cool.
to all of that.
So this is all in the realm of possibility.
Sure.
And maybe you can do some dumb stuff like little 15-second lessons about how to mix paint to make a new color that matches the New Mexico sunset or something.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. The internet's silly.
Sure.
Like you never know what's going to work to get people's attention. So that's fun. Thanks for talking that out with me. Tell me, what's been the high point thus far in your fine arts career?
That's a good question. I mean, I kind of want to say moving to New Mexico has been the high point, just because I really moved here for my art, and for being in a place that really kind of seeps inspiration at every angle. To me, that's just been and felt so important and significant. As far as, my career, as far as, kind of things that, that are just, cool for your own validation, or just kind of your own, I don't know, just you can jot down and say, oh yeah, that's, that's something that would, command respect in the art community. I took part in a fundraiser for the Denver Art Museum. And to be invited to that was a big honor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really amongst some of the, some amazing painters, in Denver. And, I sold the piece that I donated there. So that, as far as kind of things that are a little more, not as personal, but more kind of oriented, in that direction, that was definitely something to put on a resume.
What do you still hope to achieve?
I feel like I am pretty early in my career in some ways, even though I've been painting for a while. I hope to really make this my business, do it full time. I think the sky is the limit. For me, it's really all about staying centered and staying centered to my vision, centered to, creating, something, beautiful in the world, creating something of value that's going to, open people's hearts when they look at it. And so I'm more focused on how it feels and how the process kind of unfolds for me, rather than having, I want to have this and this and this. I want to have, 1 million Instagram followers. I want to have, even though I'm open to that and I would love that, to me, it's more about, I think more about the journey and more about creating beauty in the world, and really, inspiring people, and also bringing healing into the world through art. And, but I'm definitely wanting to, make it my full-time career, make, lots of money and all that, in ways that feel, aligned to my purpose.
Well, I think you have a great chance at skyrocketing, and this show will do whatever we can to help you out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just let us know. So we're going to go to the clay pot now. Before we do that, I want to let the listeners know to stick around to the very end. Claire and I are going to talk about a significant, tragic, yet uplifting ordeal in her life. But first, the clay pot. This is a collection of fan questions. So there's about 50 in here, and I pull them out at random. I don't know if you've heard this segment before, but they're kind of fun. They're intriguing. Some are a little inappropriate. First fan question: how do you handle stress?
So over time, I've definitely built up a lot of, a lot of more healthy ways of handling stress. Exercise. I feel like art is a way that I definitely handle stress. A lot of times I will write or journal just for pages and pages and pages. In just getting out the stress on the page is very cathartic for me. I love walking as well. I think walking is very underrated and very wonderful way to, just kind of get out into nature, get a little bit of perspective, a little bit of detachment from whatever is, bringing you down or causing you stress.
I love walking. I'm 5 miles a day right now. That's what I average.
That's awesome.
I basically go in and out of my house kind of all morning. When I would normally be writing, if I were in the process of writing a screenplay, I'm just walking and being creative that way. So love that answer. Next fan question. Oh, we get this one so much. I'm not going to ask you it. It's what size bed do you sleep in? What podcasts are you listening to right now?
Oh, so I did listen to this podcast before it came on.
Cool.
I haven't been listening to a ton of podcasts. I was listening to a couple kind of mystery murder podcasts. I can't remember what their names were. I do listen to a lot of Russell Brand, more on YouTube rather than, I'm not signed up for his podcast, but he has a lot of, I think he has a good and grounded perspective, which I never thought I would say about Russell Brand. Uh-huh. But he's an amazing talker, and and I think he's able to do something that I think a lot of people aren't, is be very respectful of people that come on his show who have extremely different perspectives. And I think that is a superpower in today's world. He interviewed Candace Owens. I think that's her name. She's a conservative Black woman. And he was so respectful. And it was so inspiring to hear two people coming from very different places on the political spectrum having a respectful conversation.
Was it more than civil? Because civil's a low bar.
It was
respectful is neutral.
It was actually, parts of it were like really loving.
Really good.
And so I was just like, wow, that is a master class in communication.
Yeah. I'd say everything I don't like about Russell Brand, he makes up for with like empathy and curiosity. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I don't watch him all the time, but this Candace Owens interview sounds great. Like, I'm intrigued. Do you think Russell Brand is an alchemist?
Yes.
Yes.
I do. I think, yeah.
Because you brought up this is part of your personal philosophy, your world orientation. So how is he an alchemist in the way that you are interested in alchemy? So
alchemy is a process of taking lead and turning it into gold. And if you look at the ancient alchemists, it was actually really part of how chemistry evolved. Chemistry, science and chemistry eventually separated itself from magic, which was, it was part of the original alchemists. But that's a whole thing. So alchemy is really taking something that, is not desirable and making it into something that is. And I think in turn, you also see the things that in life are not desirable are actually quite powerful and even desirable. If you look at things from the point of view of your soul versus, of our egos, we learn so much from challenge. I think Russell Brand, he was, narcissistic, egotistical, and also an addict. And a lot of that came about from, his personal childhood experiences and childhood trauma. But his process of alchemy, I think a lot has to do with taking his addiction and using, for him, he uses a lot of like the 12-step program, and taking that and turning it into just something that's so amazing. He's so honest about his shortcomings and what they mean, and how he accepts who he is and communicates that. And I think that he's been able to take, like, for example, his journey of addiction, and use that process and become a much better person than perhaps if he had not had that journey. And for me, I think that I've gone through, several challenging experiences in life, and taking those experiences and learning from them and taking what's good from them, and then also using that to inspire and help others who are, maybe going through similar challenges, I think that is, alchemy. I also think that art and painting is kind of an intrinsically alchemical process. And maybe you can see it more through, writing. So you might start with a feeling of grief or, just something that doesn't feel good. And you can write something that's truly beautiful and truly honoring of what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. And in that, art is the process of alchemy, is taking something that maybe doesn't feel good, maybe isn't really what you would want, and turning it into something that's beautiful, something that speaks to other people, that can even help them heal their own trauma, and that just speaks to the human condition. And so I think all of that is alchemy, and I think maybe we're all alchemists, some more than others.
Well, yeah, humans can transform their environment. They can inspire each other. Absolutely. Let's do one more fan question. I'll do the readouts for the show, and then we'll talk a little bit more about alchemy and how it interfaces with one of your life ordeals and art. Final fan question. Last movie you saw in a theater?
That might be the hardest question of all. I don't even know.
Have you gone after COVID? That would be.
I haven't. I think it was like the international short documentaries that were up for Oscar nominations in 2020.
Locally? Like at CCA or something?
I saw it at the Violet Crown.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know Violet Crown was like that grassroots. That's exciting. Doing like screenings like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was neat. There was one about, there was one of the documentaries about, I think, a woman with cancer in Finland. And one of them was about girls learning how to skateboard in Saudi Arabia and how that was really empowering for them.
That sounds like a great doc. And it's a mini doc?
Yeah, they were all in in one. Yeah, they were all being shown at once. So I think that was the last thing I saw in a theater. It's hard to remember, though.
Before I tell the listeners where to find you, what's the one place or one thing you want them to do from your side?
I want them to follow me on Instagram and buy something from my Etsy account.
Oh, wow. You went hard. I love that. You have a future in the arts. That's really good selling.
Sometimes you gotta make it work.
That's funny. And if you're here still with us, you've been listening long enough, I know you follow Artists with Brian on Instagram, so I won't read your handle because it's a little hard. Just check out the show updates on Artists with Brian. It'll link easy to Claire's account. Rate this podcast 5 stars in iTunes. I'm trying to get to 25 reviews right now. I currently sit at 19. Go check out how many have been added by people like you, and please rate 5 stars. Thank you to our sticker partners, Santa Fe Human Rights Alliance. Visit hrasantafe.org for a list of upcoming events. Thank you to Oasis Camper Van, minivan conversions out of Boulder, Colorado. Craftsmanship so good, most of their customers are out of state, just like you. At Oasis Camper Vans on Instagram. And finally, thank you to Santa Fe Independent Film Club. Join the group that makes short films with its members. sfindiefilmclub.org for more. And now, the moment all the true fans have been waiting for. You were telling me you got in this horrific bike accident. Maybe I don't want to put words on it, but you got in a bad bike accident, and you're making great art. Let's go through that story. There's got to be a link. I feel like there's a link. Like, even if it changed your brain somehow. I mean, something unbelievable has happened internally, metaphysically. Tell us.
Okay, so in 2014, so it's been some time now, I was working in downtown Denver. I was delivering sandwiches for Jimmy John's, and of course, looking back now, I'm like, wow, that's really dangerous. I was also teaching art, in the afternoons, and I was preparing to go back to school and become officially become an art teacher, get my degree in art education, actually at UNM. So then plans were derailed, shall we say. So I was hit by another bicycle. My bike was T-boned. I was going full speed down.
Did you say hit by another bike?
Yeah.
It was bicycle on bicycle.
It was bicycle on bicycle. So I was going down, and this was right outside of the Museum of Contemporary Art in Denver. So there's this big sculpture outside with a heart with 3 knives in it. That's like right where my accident happened. So it was quite symbolic. So I was going full speed down a hill, and another bike, he was a kid, he came out of a blind spot, and it was a stairwell, and I had no way of seeing him because everything up to that point was like covered with wood. It was, a construction site, and I was actually on the sidewalk. And so I slammed, head first into the cement. And I was pretty much like it. I was wearing a helmet, thank goodness. And I was pretty much kind of like, as they say, like out on my feet. Like I blacked out, but somehow somebody walked with me to urgent care downtown.
Oh, and you have no memory.
And I have no memory of that. They made sure I didn't break anything, which I didn't. But with a head injury like this, a lot of times the symptoms won't show up until, for a while. It took me a while. I didn't really understand what had happened, because when your brain is injured, that organ that gives you that ability to, to cope and to understand what's going on with your brain and with your body. It's just amazing how much your brain really does that, you don't think about until it is injured. So it took me a while to even understand what had been happening. And my brain just kept getting worse and worse and worse because I wasn't getting appropriate medical care. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep for nights and nights on end. I couldn't stop doing things. I was in when you're in a high reactivity situation, when you're really traumatized by something, and you're just fight or flight. I was in that all day, every day. I could not sleep, even if I took half a bottle of sleeping pills. It was hell.
Oh God.
It was hell. And anybody that goes through this kind of thing just knows how difficult it is. I lost a lot of friends. I, had to really fight for my well-being, for good medical care. I also couldn't really, I lost a lot of my art skills that I had been working on, so hard. And that felt incredibly devastating because art had always been something that I had gone back to in times of challenge and times of difficulty. So to not have that, and
are we talking memory loss or motor skill loss?
So my eyes couldn't focus. My eyes were kind of, they couldn't focus on one thing. Mm-hmm. I also had memory loss, particularly short-term memory loss, difficulty word finding. My injury was also on the right side of my head. So, that's your right brain. It's a lot of what makes sense of things as a whole.
Yeah. And new things. Yeah. Integrates new ideas and experiences.
Exactly.
Before they cross into the left brain.
Exactly. Yeah. So, a lot of what was really scary is that I couldn't, at certain points, I didn't know what was my emotions and what was other people's emotions. And I know that sometimes, people are empaths and whatever, and they can't, and it's hard to, you take on other people's energy. But this was I literally could not discriminate. And also, how you kind of, it's healthy to categorize things or, to compartmentalize things, say that you, if you're really emotional about something, usually you can just kind of say, okay, well, I can, compartmentalize that and go on with my day, and I'll deal with that later. With this, I couldn't do that. It brought up a lot of past pain, a lot of past trauma. And I just didn't know how to deal with it. It was so traumatic. They call it a traumatic brain injury for good reason.
Mm-hmm. What was the point where things were already really bad and you didn't think they were going to get worse, but they did?
So I had been moving out. I had been going through a breakup at the time of my accident. And I moved in. I wasn't homeless. Like, I wasn't living on the street, but I was basically homeless. I was house sitting for a friend, and which was insane for me to be doing that, because I couldn't. I almost burned the house down, but I was barely functioning. I was very much alone, and I just didn't really know how to get better. And I would just wake up every day and really just not want to live anymore. And I didn't know when I would get better. And so they got worse because the insurance company was like spying on me.
Oh, no.
Which added to the trauma. I was supposed to like mow the lawn, for example, at the place I was staying at. And so I would do that. And then they would spy on me and have pictures and say, oh, she's okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then also my family didn't help me for a year because my sister was living with them at the time. That's a whole nother story. They thought what she was going through was worse because she had just broken up with her boyfriend. So they, I kind of just forced myself to live with them, actually, because I just really needed that help eventually. But eventually I went to a psychic fair, and everybody there could tell that I was like just in a terrible place. You go around a bunch of psychics. My good friend was there, and she was like, I'm taking you to the hospital because you're so suicidal. And she took me to the emergency room, and then I went to it was like a halfway house. It was for people who are suicidal. And because I was alone, I was isolated at this house that I had been living at. And I just really needed help. And that was kind of like my rock bottom, and being at this place that was also really hard to be, where there are also so many people that were struggling and going through such difficult situations. And I was able to kind of recalibrate there, and also to continue to seek and fight for healthcare. But just the amount of stress, the amount of pain, the amount of loneliness that I felt, and the fact that, I didn't seem like, it's funny with a mild TBI, sometimes people don't seem like they're that bad, quote unquote, but I really couldn't function, and I really was very vulnerable. And so staying at that halfway house, I really was able to, at least get some support. And I think my family finally realized like how bad it was, so I think they were a little bit more open to helping me after that.
That's nice. So they came around finally. That was the halfway house was the impetus. It made your claim sincere to them.
Yeah, sort of. It really hurt me because my mom didn't believe me. And that's something that people with TBIs go through a lot. People with a lot of disabilities. A lot of people.
Anything invisible is extremely difficult.
And the visible ones are even more difficult because then people don't see you. They actually just see your disability. So my aunt's in a wheelchair, and I, talked to her about that and how people don't really see you when you have that. So I think there's a lot of work to be done with people who are disabled. But yes, my particular challenge was that people didn't believe me, because I've always been a very high functioning person. I've always been able to like pull myself up by my own bootstraps, but not in that situation, not at all.
How has it impacted your art making, your volume, your prolificness?
I've regained, and kind of built on my art skills since then. Art was such a huge part of my healing, and art is, very meditative for me. When you go through a trauma like that, I believe it's your sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive. It's the fight or flight. So you really need to build back those neural connections of being in your parasympathetic nervous system, where it's rest and relax. So drawing was a big part of my recovery. And I had a totally different relationship to my drawing, in that I had to stop pushing myself and saying, well, I have to keep getting better and better and better, and just start accepting myself and say, I love the fact that I was able to get out of bed and I was just able to like draw this one thing. And it was very far from what I had been doing previously. But when I built on that, I really built on a foundation of loving myself and accepting myself where I was at. And so I feel like through that process, my art has been coming from more of that that place of self-acceptance and self-love. And this is good enough. I think as artists, we do tend to be hard on ourselves. We do tend to want to do our best, and it is a competitive field in a lot of ways. But I think that coming from a place of love and coming from a place of like surrendering to, kind of what wants to come through has been something that I really learned from that experience, and from that whole ordeal. I feel like the big lesson for me was to surrender, and at the same time, I had to fight for my healthcare. I had to, fight to get better and to heal. But I also really found it remarkable to really be forced to surrender. And I think that when you live in the confines and the limitations of a health issue that affects every single part of your life, it teaches you things that, as my mom would say, like that you never wanted to know. But I honestly would not be the same person if I hadn't gone through that. So in a way, I'm grateful for it.
Wow. That word came to mind. I was going to say silver lining, and then I was too scared to ask you. I was going to say, are you maybe partially grateful, but you are? It's
hard because, I think everybody has to come to that place themselves. People told me when I was just in the like depths of despair, you someday will look back on this and you'll feel differently about it. And then some people were like, well, what a great journey. And I'm just like, you don't say that to someone, who's really struggling. But I'm, come from Boulder. So there's a lot of people that think that they know that everything's a spiritual path, man. And, it is. But you get to that point yourself. I do feel now like the whole thing is kind of a silver lining. And I feel like I have a really different perspective in regards to suffering, and in regards to challenges, and in regards to people going through things like that, and not seeing it as a weakness, but actually seeing it as a strength. And I'm writing a book about that right now, and it's about alchemy and how it's kind of the book that I wish I would have had when I was going through that. It's how to change your perspective on going through incredibly challenging circumstances and see them as a strength, and get the nourishment and get the help that you need and the support that you need, so that you can, move on to the other side of it. And, some things you won't move on to the other side of that. And that's something that has to be accepted. But
some things will break you, some things will maim you, harm you, figuratively or literally, and you're gonna have to live with that, cope.
Exactly.
But my brother mentors me a lot. He's 6 years older, but he acts like he's 30, like gratefully. But he was fond of saying there's post-traumatic stress and there's post-traumatic growth.
Sure.
And they were studying like the soldier population that recently returned from war. So that's another way to think about it. I like the ethic of your book. I guess that's the long way to say it. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Thank you for coming on the show. You did a wonderful job. And we'll talk more later.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Till next time.